Hello, friends. My sermon today comes from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 17, verse 14 through 21. And I'm reading to you from the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. It says, "When they came to the crowd, a man came to him, knelt before him, and said, 'Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and he suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him here to your disciples, but they could not cure him.' Jesus answered, 'You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you? And how much longer must I put up with you? Bring him here to me.' And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him. And the boy was cured instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, 'Why could we not cast it out?' He said to them, 'Because of your little faith. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. And nothing will be impossible for you.'" Today's text from Matthew's Gospel falls in the category of one of the pronouncements and great teaching moments of Jesus in the Gospels. The primary focus of this story is the relationship of the power of Christ to the disciples' ministry in the world. Prior to this text, the author of Matthew's Gospel presents Jesus in powerful ways as healer, preacher, teacher, and as the one who came to seek and save humanity. Like many of the healing and teaching texts in Matthew, there is a crowd present. And usually the crowd plays a significant role in the story. So let's get to the story. A man came to Jesus, kneels before him, and makes a request on behalf of his son. We don't know much about the son, but we do know that he is terribly sick. He is an epileptic, and he falls into fire and into water. Here, the man seeks healing for his son. While we don't have an account of the man bringing his son to the disciples in the gospel, he tells Jesus in verse 16, "I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him." After hearing the man's story, Jesus' first order of business is to address the disciples. But the crowd is also on the receiving end of some very harsh words. He says to them in verse 17, "You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you? And how much longer must I put up with you?" Then in verse 18, Jesus rebukes the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was cured instantly. There are almost 14 major places in the New Testament where demons or demon possession is referenced. In Matthew's Gospel, 4 of the 5 stories of demons end with a healing miracle. I am well aware that there are many different opinions about demons and demon possession. And I'm not here to say which one is right and which one is wrong. But from my theological education and understanding, I'll offer one point of view today. In the New Testament, demons are believed to be responsible for insanity, leprosy, deafness, paralysis, and the inability to speak when someone is speech impaired. In the ancient world, differently abled people or people with special needs and medical issues like epilepsy was confusing for people. And in their limited understanding of some of the medical reasons for these illnesses, the only way to explain such physical phenomena was demon possession. It wasn't known at that time that epilepsy is a problem of the nervous system and can cause seizures. In our time and with the advancement of science and medicine, we now have the knowledge about why some people might have special needs or be differently able than we are. And we don't conclude that it's demon possession. Whatever the cause of the illness of the boy, Jesus heals him. But while this is a healing narrative, the story also uncovers a huge issue among the disciples. Apparently, the disciples did try to heal the boy, but they were unsuccessful. What comes next is the teaching moment and pronouncement. The text turns toward the failure of the disciples to heal the boy. They came to Jesus privately and asked, "Why could we not cast out the demon?" Jesus does not beat around the bush. In verse 20, he says very conclusively, "Because of your little faith." Then comes the pronouncement. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, "Move from here to there," and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Imagine how disappointed Jesus was when the disciples came to him and said that they were unable to heal or cast out the demon. Jesus shows his frustration because they had failed to do what he had equipped them to do. Matthew chapter 10 verse 1 says, Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. So in this moment of frustration, Jesus tells his disciples that they are part of a perverse and faithless generation. The faith that's required is measured for them. He required the faith of the size of a mustard seed. And this iota of faith will give them the ability to move mountains. The mustard seed is usually 0.075 inches in diameter, and the plant can become 6, 12, or in some rare cases, 15 feet high. In Jesus' time, this would have been the smallest seed around Palestine. If you've never seen one, here is a mustard seed, so very tiny. In using the size of the mustard seed as a measurement of faith, Jesus is saying that it's not how much faith you have. Rather, it's what we do with our faith. Even the smallest amount of faith can do great things. Each one of us is called to look deep within us and ask ourselves today, what are we doing with our faith? Are we passing it along to our children and our grandchildren? How are we living out our faith in the world? Are we committed to social justice and making a positive impact on others? Today, I'm challenging you to live out your faith, even if it's the size of a mustard seed. Let your faith in God drive you to impact your community and your world. I want to share with you the story of a woman named Martha Berry. She was born just outside the town of Rome, Georgia, in the U.S. in 1866. She was born into a wealthy family that owned a vast estate in that area. One day, she asked her dad for a playhouse, and he built her a cabin instead. One Sunday, as she was studying her Bible in her cabin, Martha heard the voices of small children outside her door. She went out and saw some of the poor children from her nearby community. Martha was a teenager by this time, and she called the children to her and began to teach them stories of the Bible. Her Bible class met each week in her playhouse. She taught children that would never had the opportunity to go to school. She taught them how to read and write. She taught them math and many other lessons. Then in 1902, she had the idea to start a boys' school. She deeded the land, raised funds, and opened the doors to students. And the Berry Industrial School for Boys was formed. The school continued to grow, adding a program for girls. If you visit Rome, Georgia today, you can still see the house Martha Berry lived in until she died. You can also see the cabin playhouse where she taught poor children about the love of God. If you visit Rome, Georgia, you can also see what her mustard seed school has become. Today, Berry College sits on 28,000 beautiful acres of Georgia real estate. There are 38 major buildings and well over 2,000 students. Berry College is widely recognized as one of the outstanding comprehensive colleges in the southern United States. A school that had very humble beginnings has been a blessing to tens of thousands of men and women. What will you do with your mustard seed faith? The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of the Lord abides forever. Have a blessed and wonderful day. Goodbye for now.